I really struggled with this week's Yeah But segment because I had two different teams in mind. I thought, okay, I'm going to go Denver here. I think Denver is overrated. And, who have they beat? They beat the Giants and Daniel Jones. They beat the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, who they kind of got outplayed even though they won that game. And they beat Zach Wilson and the Jets. They have their mile high, early season elevation always seems to help out. Home field is really beneficial for them, especially in September. I'm just sitting here like, they don't have it, man. I don't think they have it. But then I started doing some research, and I'm looking, and granted, they haven't beaten anybody, but this defense is good. And I knew that their secondary was good, and they had a little bit of a pass rush, even with Chubb hurt. But, I mean, look at the stats here. Top 3 rushing defense. They have the best defense for passing yards per attempt. The secondary is great, right? 4th in turnover differential. Number 1 in the league in time of possession. They've got a top 10 passing game offensively and the 5th best running game in the league. And as far as their total defense, 2nd in total yards, number 1 for points against. Again, they played Jones, Lawrence, and Wilson. But I kind of like this Denver team, and I actually took them as an under. I think their over-under early this year was 7, and I thought, that sounds just about where they'll be. I like Teddy. I'm not an anti-Teddy guy, but I know he's also one of those journeyman vanilla types. So Denver, though, is not going to be my target of the Yeah But Hater segment because I actually kind of like what I've seen, and as I've dug a little bit deeper, I'm like, okay, maybe they're that 7-seed caliber team. We'll see. My Yeah But is the Raiders. And I was actually going to say coming into this that, the Raiders are for real. But then I started doing some research there, too, and I'm like, well, this kind of just feels like lightning in a bottle. The Raiders right now are 7th in time of possession, so it's one of those John Gruden specials. Get out to a big lead, get that time of possession, find a way to get it done. Best passing offense in the league right now, 1,200 yards for Carr and Co. 6th in turnovers given. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They don't force a lot of turnovers, right? Their running offense is 22nd. So, I mean, not the best running offense. And then on the defensive side, they get a lot of sacks, right? 13 right now, 13th in the league. The secondary is actually pretty good, 6th in the league for yards per against. Their running defense their running isn't very great, right? So 5th worst in the league running yards per attempt. And then you look at who they beat. Okay, did they beat any good teams? Well, they did beat Lamar, but they needed overtime to make that happen, and they needed a couple of fluky plays, and they needed Harbaugh to kick the ball through the back of the end zone rather than kicking it into the field of play to kill some clock. And it came down to the last second play and a burnt coverage and all these injuries for the Ravens for them to win that one. Then they beat the Steelers. We just talked about Ben Roethlisberger. I just told you how burnt he is, man. He's burnt toast. Then they beat Jacoby Brissett, who I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he's a good backup, decent journeyman stopgap if you need. But they were holding their breath to beat them. They fall behind quick. They come back, take a 25 points, 25 straight, so it's 25-14. And then they watch that evaporate. They go to overtime, 25-25. They got to win another game in overtime. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, they don't turn the ball over a lot. They don't force a lot of turnovers. So, if they start getting a little bit sloppy, they're going to start losing that turnover differential. Being 7th in time of possession, again, they don't turn the ball over, so they're keeping the ball. They start turning the ball over. They start putting it on the ground. That changes, right? They're middle of the league pretty much in so many categories defensively. Offensively, it is just pass, pass, pass. They have the 5th worst running game in the league by yards per attempt. So, I mean, you look at this. How are the Raiders 3-0? They won 2 games in OT. It required some Derek Carr magic, who I think he's underrated. Again, we'll talk about quarterbacks in a few episodes. But is that sustainable? I mean, aren't they every year 7-3 or 7-4, 7-5, like somewhere in that territory, and then they find a way to put their foot in their mouth and just choke it away? I don't know. I want the Raiders to be good. I was going to come in with, the Raiders are for real. And then I started reading through my notes and reading through the stats and reading through everything that I've seen and the eye test. And I'm like, maybe they've just been pretty lucky. And this kind of goes back to the Ravens, right? Ravens have been in a lot of close games. They've won some, they've lost some, but they've got a really good running game. They've got a former MVP. They've got a team that's been there before. I mean, Gruden, he was there 20 years ago in the Super Bowl, 18 years ago, with an entirely different team, a different league. This was, year 2 of Brady? We're in year 20 now? So, my Yeah But Hater segment goes to the Raiders. This one's a little bit more genuine and not in the, tongue-in-cheek as past Yeah But Hater segments. I don't know, man. I got to see more from the Raiders. I got to see them beat somebody. And they'll get a good test coming up. They've got the schedule starts picking up a little bit. They're my Yeah But Hater team.